Her Most Gracious Majesty once reviewed her troops under the side of Salisbury Crags, which is most beautiful to be seen in the middle of Scotland's bonny garden, the ancient city of Edinburgh. That was on the 25th of August, 1881, and I immortalized this historic event in a few lines, which I have called the Royal Review, August the 25th, 1881. All hail to the Empress of India, Great Britain's Queen. Long may she live in health, happy and serene, that came from London far away to review the Scottish volunteers in grand array, most magnificent to be seen, near by Salisbury Crags and its pastures green, which will long be remembered by our gracious Queen, and by the volunteers that came from far away, because it rained most of the day. And with the rain, their clothes were all wet through. On the 25th day of August at the Royal Review, and to the volunteers it was no lark, because they were ankle deep in mud in the Queen's Park, which proved to the Queen they were loyal and true to endure such hardships at the Royal Review. Oh, it was a most beautiful scene to see the Forfarshire artillery marching past the Queen. Her Majesty with her steady marching felt content, especially when their arms to her they did present. And the Inverness Highland Volunteers seemed very grand and marched by steady to a man amongst the mud without dismay, and the rain pouring down on them all the way. And the bands that did play God Save the Queen near by Holyrood Palace and the Queen's Park so green. Success to our noble Scottish volunteers. I hope they will be spared for many long years, and to Her Majesty always prove loyal and true, as they have done for the second time at the Royal Review. To take them in general, they behaved very well. The more that the rain fell on them, pell-mell, they marched by Her Majesty in very grand array, which will be remembered for many a long day, bidding defiance to wind and rain, which adds the more fame to their name. And I hope none of them will have cause to rue the day that they went to the Royal Review, and I'm sure Her Majesty ought to feel proud, and in their praise she cannot speak too loud, because she knew they were loyal and true for enduring such hardships at the Royal Review. From the days when I was a boy and first learned with great difficulty how to read and later how to write, my favorite literature was the penny tragedies of Mr. William Shakespeare. It did not take me long to find that I had a gift for the performing of his characters, and I very quickly mastered the parts of Macbeth, Richard III, Hamlet, and Othello, the Moor of Venice. I would like to tell you about my first appearance on the stage. It was in that beautiful city of Dundee by the Silvery Tay, in Mr. Giles' theatre in the Quarry, and the fee for that first performance was £1 sterling, payable to the manager of the theatre. Now, my workmates in the handloom weaving raised this money because they couldn't wait to see my talents displayed upon a stage. And the following night, after we gave the pound to Mr. Giles, I played the great part of Macbeth. Mistress Macbeth was sustained by Mistress Giles, the manager's wife. And oh, could you have seen the scenes of enthusiasm and wild joy when I entered upon the stage. Such cheers there were that the play had to stop for a few minutes. We performed it 3 times that evening. And when it came to the great fight scene, Macduff, oh, jealousy, what a terrible worm thou art in the human spirit. Macduff said, "Lie down, you fool, you're supposed to be dead." But my workmates cheered me on, and I gave him a good run for his money. Well, now, I would like to read to you, one of my lyric poems. I've called this lyric poem The Moon. Beautiful moon, with thy silvery light, thou seemest most charming to my sight. As I gaze upon thee in the sky so high, a tear of joy does moisten mine eye. Beautiful moon, with thy silvery light, thou cheerest the Eskimo in the night. For thou lettest him see to harpoon the fish, and with them he makes a dainty dish. Beautiful moon, with thy silvery light, thou cheerest the fox in the night, and lettest him see to steal the grey goose away out of the farmyard from a stack of hay. Beautiful moon, with thy silvery light, thou cheerest the farmer in the night, and makest his heart beat high with delight as he views his crops by thy light in the night. Beautiful moon, with thy silvery light, thou cheerest the lovers in the night as they walk through the shady groves alone, making love to each other before they go home. Ladies and gentlemen, this is beautiful water you have in this city. I would like to warn you here against the demon drink. Water is my staple drink. I have once taken ginger beer in a public house. But, oh, my friends, be warned against these publicans who, in the true and holy words of writ, are also sinners. I've often been asked to give entertainments in these public houses, but they don't like me to do this because all the time people are listening to my poems, they are not drinking the demon drink. I don't know how this government can allow the poorhouses to be filled and the lunatic asylums to be filled and the prisons to be filled, all with people who have gone down the slippery slope through the demon drink. Be warned, ladies and gentlemen. I would now like to read a tribute to a man who has done a great deal to fight this demon that is in our midst, to fight the publicans and sinners of our society. His name is Mr. Murphy. And I would like now to read this as a sincere tribute to a great man, a tribute to Mr. Murphy and the Blue Ribbon Army. All hail to Mr. Murphy. He is a hero brave that has crossed the mighty Atlantic wave. For what purpose? Let me pause and think. I answer, to warn the people not to taste strong drink. I'm sure if they take his advice, they never will rue the day they joined the Blue Ribbon Army in the year 1882. And I hope to their colours they will always prove true and shout, hurrah for Mr. Murphy and the ribbon of blue. What is strong drink? Let me think. I answer, 'tis a thing from whence the majority of evils spring, and causes many a fireside with boisterous talk to ring, and leaves behind it a deadly sting. Some people do say it is good when taken in moderation, but when taken to excess it leads to tribulation, also to starvation and loss of reputation, likewise your eternal soul's damnation. Strong drink to the body can do no good. It defiles the blood, likewise the food, and causes the drunkard with pain to groan because it extracts the marrow from the bone, and hastens him to a premature grave, because to the cup he's bound a slave, for the temptation is hard to thole, and by it he will lose his immortal soul. The more's the pity, I must say, that so many men and women are by it led astray, and decoyed from the paths of virtue and led on to vice by drinking too much alcohol and acting unwise. Good people all, of every degree, I pray you all be warned by me. I advise you all to pause and think, and never more to taste strong drink. But go at once, make no delay, and join the Blue Ribbon Army without dismay, and rally round Mr. Murphy, and make a bold stand, and help to drive the bane of society from our land. I wish Mr. Murphy every success, hoping he will make rapid progress. And to the Blue Ribbon Army, may he always prove true and adhere to his colors, the beautiful blue. We live in a vale of tears, ladies and gentlemen. A vale of tears that is filled with sadness and sorrow. Recently there has happened, as all of you will know, a very sad and tragic event, the passing of that dear Lord and Lady Dalhousie. I have immortalized their memory in the following lines, which I would like to read to you now. I've called this tribute to the late Lord and Lady Dalhousie the death of Lord and Lady Dalhousie. Alas, Lord and Lady Dalhousie are dead and buried at last, which causes many people to feel a little downcast. And both lie side by side in one grave. And I hope God in his goodness their souls will save. Lord Dalhousie was a man worthy of all praise, and to his memory I hope a monument the people will raise that will stand for many ages to come to commemorate the good deeds he has done. He was beloved by men of high and low degree, especially in Forfarshire by his tenantry, and by many of the inhabitants in and around Dundee, because he was affable in temper and void of all vanity. He had great affection for his children, also his wife. 'Tis said he loved her as dear as his life, and I trust they are now in heaven above, where all is joy, peace, and love. At the age of 14, he resolved to go to sea, so he entered the training ship Britannia, belonging to the Navy, and entered as a midshipman, as he considered most fit, then passed through the course of training with the greatest credit. In a short time he obtained the rank of lieutenant, then to Her Majesty's ship Galatea was sent, which was under the command of the Duke of Edinburgh, and during his service there he felt but little sorrow. It was in the year 1877 he married the Lady Ada Louisa Bennet, and by marrying that noble lady he ne'er did regret. And he was ever ready to give his service in any way, most willingly and cheerfully, by night or by day. It was in the year of 1887, and on Thursday, the 1st of December, which his relatives and friends will long remember, that were present at the funeral in Cockpen churchyard, because they had for the noble lord a great regard. About 11 o'clock the remains reached Dalhousie, and were met by a body of the tenantry. They conveyed them inside the building, all seemingly woebegone, and among those that sent wreaths was Lord Claude Hamilton. Those that sent wreaths were but very few, but one in particular was the Duke of Buccleuch, besides Dr. Herbert Spencer and Countess Rosebery and Lady Bennet, which no doubt were sent by them with heartfelt regret. Besides those that sent wreaths, in addition, were the Earl and Countess of Aberdeen, especially the Prince of Wales was most lovely to be seen, and the Earl of Dalkeith's wreath, well, was very pretty too, with a mixture of green and white flowers, beautiful to view. Among those present at the interment were Mr. Marchbanks, MP, also ex-Provost Ballingall from Bonnie Dundee, besides the Honourable W.G. Colville, representing the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, while in everyone's face standing at the grave was depicted sorrow. Funeral service was conducted in the church of Cockpen by the Reverend J. Crabb of St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, town of Brechin, and as the two coffins were lowered into their last resting place, then the people retired with sad hearts at a quick pace. There are great men who are known throughout the world. There are heroes that are known only to a few. I have immortalized in my verses a Glasgow fireman, who in a terrible fire in the year 1888 on the 14th day of October had a miraculous escape. I have called this poem a tribute to him, The Miraculous Escape of Robert Allan, the Fireman. It was in the year of 1888, and on October the 14th day, that a fire broke out in a warehouse and for hours blazed away. And the warehouse now destroyed was occupied by the Messrs. R. Wiley Hill and Company, situated in Buchanan Street in the city of Glasgow. The flames burst forth about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and intimation of the outbreak spread very soon. And in the spectators' faces were depicted fear and consternation, while the news flew like lightning to the fire brigade station. And when the brigade reached the scene of the fire, the merciless flames were ascending higher and higher, raging furiously on all the floors above the street, and within 20 minutes the structure was destroyed by the burning heat. Then the roof fell in, pushing out the front wall, and the loud crash thereof frightened the spectators, one and all, because it shook the neighbouring buildings to their foundation and caused throughout the city a great sensation. And several men were injured by the falling of the wall, and as the bystanders gazed thereon, it did their hearts appall. But the poor fellows bore up bravely without uttering a moan, and with all possible speed they were conveyed home. The firemen tried to play up in the building where the fire originated, but alas, their efforts were unfortunately frustrated, because they were working the hose pipes in a building occupied by Messrs. Smith and Brown. But the roof was fired, and amongst them it came crashing down, and miraculously they escaped except one fireman, the hero of the fire named Robert Allan, who was carried with the debris down to the street floor, and what he suffered must have been hard to endure. He travelled to the fire in Buchanan Street on the first machine that was ordered, very fleet, along with Charles Smith and Dan Ritchie, and proceeded to Brown and Smith's buildings that were burning furiously. And in the third floor of the building he took his stand, most manfully, without fear, with a hose in his hand, and played in the fire through a window in the gable with all his might, the hero, as long as he was able. And he remained there for about a quarter of an hour, while from his hose upon the building the water did pour, when without the least warning the floor gave way, and down he went with, oh, horror and dismay. And with the debris and flooring he got jammed. But Charlie Smith and Dan Ritchie quickly planned to lower down a rope to him without any doubt. So with a long pull and a strong pull, he was dragged out. He thought he was jammed in for a very long time, but instead of being only 2 hours jammed, he thought 'twas months, 9. But the brave hero kept up his spirits without any dread, and then he was taken home in a cab and put in bed. Oh, kind Christians, think of Robert Allan, the heroic man, for he certainly is a hero, deny it who can, because although he was jammed and in the midst of the flame, he tells the world fearlessly he felt no pain. The reason why, good people, he felt no pain is because he put his trust in God. To me it seems plain. And in conclusion, I most earnestly pray that we will all put our trust in God night and day. And I hope that Robert Allan will do the same, because he saved him from being burnt while in the flame. And all those that trust in God will do well and be sure to escape the pains of hell. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to end this recital of my poems to you with the saddest of them all, because it marks the passing of that most gracious sovereign lady, our late Queen Victoria. I wrote this with a tear in my eye, and I no doubt that you will hear it with a tear in yours. I have called this poem on the death of the Queen, the death of the Queen. Alas, our noble and generous Queen Victoria is dead, and I hope her soul to heaven has fled, to sing and rejoice with saints above, where all is joy, peace, and love. 'Twas in January the 22nd, 1901, in the evening she died at 6:30 o'clock, which to the civilized world has been a great shock. She was surrounded by her children and grandchildren dear, and for the motherly, pious queen they shed many a tear. She has been a model and faithful queen. Very few like her have been. She's acted virtuously during her long reign, and I'm afraid the world will never see her like again. During her reign she was beloved by the high and the low, and through her decease the people's hearts are full of woe, because she was kind to her subjects at home and abroad. And now she's receiving her rewards from the eternal God. People around Balmoral will shed many tears, owing to her visits amongst them for many years. She was very kind to the old infirm women there, by giving them provisions and occasionally a prayer. And while at Balmoral she found work for men unemployed, which made the hearts of the poor men feel overjoyed. And for her Majesty they would have lain down their lives, because sometimes she saved them from starving, and their wives. Many happy days she spent at Balmoral, viewing the bloomin' heather and the bonny Highland floral, along with Prince Albert, her husband dear. But alas, when he died, she shed many a tear. She was very charitable, as everybody knows, but the loss of her husband caused her many woes, because he cheered her at Balmoral as they the heather trod. But I hope she has met him now at the throne of God. Therefore, good people, one and all, let us be prepared for death when God does on us call, like the good and noble Queen Victoria of renown, the greatest and most virtuous queen that ever wore a crown.